Eis nun Gimel. And we got in a little bit into the nitty-gritty of Rotzen. We identified Rotzen in terms of the koyach HaRotzen, so to speak, in contrast to other koyachs. All koyachs, other koyachs pnimim, have a koyach presence. They have a separate identifiable presence. What this koyach stands for. Rotzon does not have a self-identity. Does not have a presence separate from its source, from the etzem. Rotzon is the etzem in a state of Rotzon. And this immediately gives us a recognition that Rotzon brings with it an etzem quality, not a koyach quality. Etzem does not change from one situation to another situation. It does not get intricately involved in anything. It is what it is. This is the Dachat Etzem. We tried it several times, and we will try again to give some definition to the word Etzem. But as we go, we only touched upon it several times. Okay, so we're into safety Meshaitim. Ois Nun Gimel. V'hinei, behold, lahavin hadugma mikozon lamayla. To understand the similarity of this, how it is to be found lamayla. I once pointed out the meaning of the word v'hinei. Hinei is behold. And after you say behold, you start explaining the whole thing. So what's beholding? What am I beholding before you explain it? Behold means look at it. The explanation is, yes, I'm going to explain to you. But when I'm explaining to you, I'm not telling you something that you don't see. I'm going to discuss with you that which you already see. And I'm going to get you to focus on that which I want you to focus to. This is the Hinei. And this is the elaboration file. But remember, I'm not telling you something that you are not already observing. It's important to me that you know that you are observing it. If you're not observing it, I can't even begin to discuss it. I can only discuss and bring out and force you to see, help you to see things, identify things within that which you already observe. This is the Hinei. Behold, Lahavin hadugma v'konsel l'mayla. To understand the dugma, the similarity of all this that we spoke before in the Rotzain and other koiches and so forth, how this is reflected l'mayla. The whole discussion of how it is in the nefesh, which is important, but that is not the focus, that's not the reason for this discussion. The reason for the discussion is that the nefesh should open up a view to see how things are l'mayla, how things are actually in the godly realm. In order to get this similarity to Islam, we have to first understand Inyan, the whole principle of Oyer Ein Sof. What is the significance of this term Oyer Ein Sof? There's an Inyan in that term. There's a reason why we refer to it as Oyer Ein Sof. Both there's a reason and Oyer Ein Sof is telling us something. And now we want to know what is Oyer Ein Sof telling us. Again, I'm calling your attention to the words. The words are very important. The means of which the Rebbe is pulling us to see what we're supposed to see. Inyan Oyer Ein Sof. Inyan Oyer Ein Sof means what is the inyan? What is the point of Oyer Ein Sof? And so to speak, the other thing about this we'll see as we go. Hina Yodua, for it is known. The Oyer Ein Sof, now this term of Oyer Ein Sof, Ein HaKavon. The intent in that term is not Oyer Shel Ho Ein Sof, the Oyer of the Ein Sof. Lashon Kodesh should be correct to say Oyer Ein Sof means the Oyer of the Ein Sof, that belongs to the Ein Sof. But this is not what we mean when we say Oyer Ein Sof. Kiim, what then do we mean by Oyer Ein Sof? We mean to describe the Oyer itself, Sheha Oyer Hu Ein Sof, Oyer Ein Sof, Oyer which is Ein Sof. So that the Oyer itself is Ein Sof. Okay, so that, as we shall see, immediately poses multiple questions. Why do we say, number one, that you don't mean Oyer Shel Oyer Ein Sof, but Oyer Ein Sof itself? Shim Neymar Oyer Shel Ein Sof. Because if we will say that Oyer Ein Sof means Oyer that comes and belongs to the Ein Sof, Harei Ein Sof, so then this Ein Sof Koi Al Ha'atzmos. If this is Oyer of the Ein Sof, that means what is the Ein Sof itself referred to? It refers to the Atzmos. The Ha'atzmos Ein Lechan Lo Yishra B'Shem Ein Sof. Atzmos, you cannot allude to it just with the name of Ein Sof. Kiim, what is more correct and more pointed in the Atzmos? B'Shem Ein Lo Yitchilo. In Atzmos there's a deeper reference point, not Ein Sof, but Ein Lo Yitchilo. He does not have a beginning. This is a higher quality, a supreme quality over Ein Sof. L'chol she'ein l'tchila, because anything that does not have a beginning, memele, then automatically as a result, if it has no beginning, ein l'tichla. It does not have a tichla. Tichla means, here it's alluding to the end. Tichla means a tachlis. What is it about? If it has no beginning, there's no definition what it's about. What is its intent? Like a tachlis. In English, there is like a expression, to what end? To what end means to what purpose? So anything that ein l'tchila, memele ein l'tichla. So then the end, so to speak, the purpose, the defining element of what this is about, that is not there because it has no beginning. This is the name from ein l'tchila. All right, so here's the meaning of the word dehine. If it has no beginning, and thus it does not have an end, I don't mean end measure-wise, but an end in a purpose, what is it? What is its message? Tichla. Then how do we relate to it? What do we know about it, and what is the significance of that knowledge? And yet, at the same time, we refer to it as oir. Oir means gilui, illumination. What kind of illumination is it if I don't see anything? This is why it is introduced with the word dehine. Let's elaborate on this for a second. Hine means behold. Why do you have to say behold? If I see it, I see it. You have to call my attention to that which I see. The answer is yes, indeed. You could be looking at it and not be at all impressed and not see anything. And this is why it is necessary for me to call attention to that which you don't see in front of your eyes. If I don't see it, and I cannot define it, so what's the purpose of me of calling attention to it? The answer is, yes, indeed, you cannot observe it. You cannot see it. You cannot experience it. But that is the truth in which you are present. And your neshama definitely is a reflective of that truth. And that is what I want to affect on you. That you should relate and recognize that you are in the presence, that you're present without knowing what it is. And yet you're fully present. To the extent that the hina, I can call your attention to it. Again, the term etzem is not definable, but the hine identifies with the etzem. Behold. What does behold mean? Behold means there is something there that without you knowing what it is. Without your ability to define it, you need to define it. This is the etzem. This etzem concept, principle, is not of a worldly presence. There is no worldly means by which to define etzem. This is completely superworldly. This is what we call godly. Godly does not mean a quality. Godly means a primary presence that needs no definition. Godly does not beg for a source. Where does it come from? And what is it there for? Having said that, how do we then relate to God? The answer is, we do not relate to God with our faculties, by our understanding and knowing what it is. We must recognize that the entire truth of our being and of all being is a truth that is not accidental, that is not a truth of nothingness. It's a truth, an intended truth, coming from a true presence. This is what we point out all the time. When we open up our eyes and we look at space, the sky, I always point out. On the one hand, we're looking at undefined space. You would think it has no purpose, it's just there by default, by nothingness. This nothingness is an intended presence. There is an etzem that reveals this nothingness. This is what the first posuk in the Torah says. Bereshis Bora Elokim. The very beginning is that Bora Elokim, that God created. Hashamayim and Oretz. Creating the Oretz, we understand what that is. Oretz is a tangible presence. Has all kinds of different qualities to it, contours. It has changes, seasons, and so forth. Shamayim. What kind of creation is Shamayim? Shamayim is just there. Nothing happens in Shamayim. So the Torah right away says, no, please understand. No, that's false. The Shamayim is a godly creation. It's a real presence. On the divine level, on the God level, this is a truly created entity. And in creating the world, God created the world in this complete entity. That it has Shomayim, that which defies creation, defies identity. And then encompassed within that is the Oretz. So that when you start walking on Oretz, true, you're walking on Oretz, but you're aware that there is a Shomayim that encompasses it. The Oretz does not identify your presence completely. It identifies only your practical presence, not your reality. This is the Shomayim. The Shomayim remains, so to speak, in the Cheg HaBoiri. It is there because there is a creator. That's why there is Shemayim. This is a hine. This is something which we have no understanding of. But this is how we live. We're taking it for granted. Why? Because it's real. And it's so real that we can speak, behold this, but behold it, I have no seichel, I have no ability to behold it, but yes, I can reflect I can reflect to myself that which I'm living with. Now because I'm beholding my own reality. And to begin to understand this, let me right away introduce us. There is Ein Sof, and there is Ein Sof. Ein Sof is not a correct way to refer to the Ein Sof, to the source of sources. To reality prior to any creation, to any statement of being. That, if you want to refer to that, you have to refer to it as Ein L'Tchila. It has no being. It has no beginning. This, which has no beginning, this have no defined being, this is the real being. This is the real being. This is that which you are obligated, so to speak, to relate to it and serve. This is why there is absolutely no limit as to what your dedication to it calls for. Okay, now let's look inside.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah. We started speaking about Atzmos, how it's godly, it's not a faculty, and then we moved on to Shemayim, which is you think it's a default. Was that to bring a dogma with the Indian of Atzmos?
No, not a dogma. The reason we can relate to Shomayim, which is an unidentifiable thing, is because we perceive that there's an Etzem. To be revisited clearly, but please understand, we have perception and understanding that which we don't begin to know what we're perceiving. And this is why, once we start, I want that we should to bring it out to our own. This is why life is so dear to us, because life represents to us this Ein L'Tchila, Ein L'Sof. Why do you want to live? What kind of question is that? It's a stupid question, right? Okay, we underline that begins with Mitzius. No. The line that begins with Zed, Milo Yisero Alo Ein Sof. Ein L'Tchila is a higher Milo over Ein Sof. The whole Shein L'Tchila Memela Ein L'Tchila. Let me explain how is this end. Because anything that has no beginning, Memela automatically, by default, doesn't have a Tichla, a Tachlis, an end. This in Memela in Tichla is a very important concept. Memela means the Indian from not Tichla is not a created entity. It is an automatic thing because it's greater than Tichla. It's automatic that it doesn't have Tichla. If it has not Tichla, then automatically in a Tichla, that it's much superior to that whole concept. That's Musa Yisborich. Okay, here we come to nitty-gritty. That's Musa Yisborich. And Hashem's Atzmus. When you mention Atzmus, you have to give it some kind of a praise word. Yisborich. Shemitziyuse me'atzmusay. I don't know if you ever heard this term. Okay, you're invited to step inside. Shemitziyuse me'atzmusay. Where his mitzias, his presence, is not a mitzias that came to be from a state of not being. Something brought into being. Like Beishus Bor Elikim. Me'atzmusay, me'atzmusay. His presence is me'atzmusay, is from itself. He created himself. In our terms, this is how we would refer to it. It's a false term. But this is how, in our terms, this is how it comes out. He made himself. Because anything that is present, we cannot perceive that it was not made. So therefore, but there's nothing before it. So he made himself. But But really, Mitzvusei Me'atzmusei is much higher than being made by himself. Mitzvusei Me'atzmusei means that there is no such thing as not being.
So why are we saying he made himself? What do we gain by that?
We gain by the given terminology in our thought process. And then we realize how stupid that is. His mitzius is from itself. Thus, it doesn't have a beginning. Why? Because if mitzius is from itself, so then mitzius, so he is present before he is present. Me'atzmusei. Doesn't have a beginning. Memele, and thus automatically, Eloi tichlo. He does not have a tichlo. Tichlo means an end, a tachlis. The word end over here means, like I say in the English word, to what end, to what purpose? Since that it doesn't have a beginning, it does not have an aim on where it's going to. This is the term Ein Tchila. I want to tell you all, this is the most sensitive inyanim in Chassidus. We are talking about it as being presented on a platter. Mitzvusei Me'atzmusei is a phenomenal concept. It's impossible for us even to fathom it. But that is, we have to say it because that's how the truth is. This is beyond our understanding. Which is something that we are forced to say without knowing what we are saying. But Matthias Metzmutz. Memele, and therefore Einheit Aval Inyan Ho Ein Sof. But the Inyan of Ein Sof, Inyan, the implication of the word Ein Sof, Einai Mechayiv, that does not force it to, there's no imperative principle in this, that it should not have a beginning. For it is conceivable. That even though it doesn't have an end, yet still, it would have a beginning. It's conceivable that it has a beginning, even though it doesn't have a tichlo, an end purpose, or a meaning of what it's about. How is that possible? If it has a beginning, what's the beginning about? What was it started about? What was meant by its beginning? So therefore it has to have a tichlo. So it's possible that he should have a beginning and not have a tichlo. I'm afraid we'll have to let it hang over here. We can go a little further, but without delving into it, we're not going to be just going to say words. In essence, the beginning like I said the other day on the WhatsApp, there's a beginning. The beginning has no beginning. The beginning has no particular purpose or reason why it begins. Not because it needs it, but because of its truth. It begins it. So therefore, there is no definition in the beginning, even though it's a beginning. Something starts off. But there is no compelling element what makes it begin.